Hi, everyone. This is Danielle Morrill. I'm the GM of Meltano. I've also got Dawa Man with me. Dawa, will you say something so that your face pops up among all the faces?
Yeah, for sure. Hey everyone, this is Dawa with the Meltano team.
So as many of you know, and maybe some of you don't know, we did announce yesterday in company announcements some changes to the Meltano team going forward. So I've linked to that message, that Slack message in the group conversation agenda document. But I'm just going to give a very brief TLDR, and that might set the stage for some questions. I don't see any questions in the doc yet, but I'm not going to assume everybody reads every Slack channel. So the reason I introduced Dawa is because he's the engineering manager on the project, and we also have 4 members of our team who are engineers. I think they're all here. And we announced yesterday that we are going to be cutting back the project significantly. It's really just related to burn, reducing the cost that we've been spending on this project. It's a project that's about 2 years running, and I joined about a year ago, about halfway through. But going forward, Dow is going to be running the project solo. So I wanted to make sure that you all saw his face, and he'll be running this call going forward. He's a very early GitLabber, and maybe I'll hand it over to him to kind of reintroduce himself for those of you who might be newer to the company, just really quickly while we wait for some questions.
Sure. So I joined GitLab a little bit over 5 years ago. I got my 5-year anniversary backpack, which is amazing. It just came in last week. I joined when we were just 10 people, just ahead of GitLab joining Y Combinator, which is kind of where it all took off from an investment and growth and traction perspective. And after a while, as first an engineer and then an engineering manager within the GitLab organization, halfway through 2019, I decided I was kind of up for something new, smaller, exciting, different technology stack, etc. And that turned out to be Meltano. I was very grateful to be given the opportunity to kind of move over to that internal startup inside GitLab. And now, unfortunately, the time has come that, as Danielle has mentioned, from GitLab's perspective, the monthly burn just needs to kind of be reduced because it's not in proportion to the actual results we've booked so far. I'm really glad that the project is being given the opportunity to kind of have the reset button be hit without the entire project being canceled entirely. Of course, it's going to be quite a change for me and for everyone involved, for me to be running the project by myself for the time being compared to the 6-person team we've had on it so far. But I have a lot of conviction about the fact that there's still something for us to be, accomplished here. I feel like since November, we've really kind of hit a different stride, and we have a far better idea of what we're trying to build, who we're trying to build it for, what's the problem we're trying to solve. And I think we have a path to product market fit right now. So I'm very excited to at least be able to see that through a little while longer and not have to work the amazing work that the team has put in over the last 1.5-2 years or so, not have that go to waste. And with a little bit of luck, this effort of kind of increasing the runway and thereby increasing the chances of eventual success instead of keeping the burn as high as it has been for the recent 6 months or so, and thereby you're kind of forcing us maybe to make a really black and white no-go or go decision a few months from now. Ultimately, I think for Meltano's sake and therefore for GitLab's sake, this is probably the best move at this point, and I am excited to see what I can do with it. And hopefully, if things keep going well, there will be the opportunity to bring some more people on, but that will be completely dependent on whether we start seeing those results that we are convinced are out there, but so far, unfortunately, haven't shown up yet.
Thanks, Dawa. Just to reiterate what he's saying, and also just to add a little more context, the 2 metrics that we were looking at, one is MAUI. We've talked about that in this call before, so it's monthly active UI users. For a while, we had to differentiate between users of Meltano and the UI versus the command line. So we had a goal there that we missed for 2019, and then we reset the goal for 2020, and we were also significantly behind pace, although maybe we would have made it, maybe not. But the bigger issue we were really facing is retention. So as we started to get users, we were able to very successfully drive users to the top of the funnel. So we were able to generate a lot of SaaS signups when we switched over to SaaS infrastructure for the product, because it was great. People didn't have to do their own setup. It turns out like a lot of our target users don't really want to figure out how to set up a server. So we were able to get a lot of users. We got about 250 users over just like about 4-week period of time, but we really couldn't retain them. And we got pretty much the same feedback from them all in the calls. So what we would do is when someone would sign up for an account, we would offer to do a phone call where we would have them walk through using Meltano. So they, not us demoing, but actually them showing us basically where they got frustrated. So we'd have them give a stream of consciousness, basically, which is like an interesting way to do product discovery. But the bummer was, like, at first everyone struggled to connect data sources. So then we've worked to make that easier. Then people struggled to, use the dashboards we were providing. So we're making that better. And that's really what you have to do. You have to kind of work through those issues. It's just we didn't really get to that point until really late in the game. So when DAO talks about hitting a new stride in November, that's what that's really about. Is now we're doing that customer discovery and we have those insights, but need more time to execute against them. So it's true that if he's by himself, he's going to be slower to ship. I mean, just in terms of, we're not expecting him to do the work of 5 engineers, but the good news is then that makes the runway longer. So he has a pretty clear roadmap, probably for the foreseeable months. And I think that segues well into the first question here, which is from Taylor. So let's switch gears and get out of presenter mode here. And Taylor, would you like to verbalize your question?
Sure, yeah. Just curious if this change, I kind of got the answer. It doesn't sound like it is, but if it's changing the target or audience at all, and kind of the general strategies, or just basically you feel like you're on a good path and now we're just kind of scaling back the aggressiveness on it.
Well, I can speak to that a little, and then I want to make sure that I really make it clear, like, it's going to be DAO's decision going forward. I think right now we have some insights that we want to follow to their conclusions. And of course, once we unblock those issues, there'll be new issues that we don't know about yet that will come up when users are able to be more successful and get deeper into using the product. So at least right now, we know it's too difficult to connect data sources. Users don't really understand the idea of like writing a transformation. They really just want to go from a data source to a dashboard that's been default built for them. We think our target user has a pretty clear set of default metrics they care about, that we don't need to have each one of them reinvent the wheel, so we can build some good defaults. But once we nail those things, then I think we're going to end up finding out that those users are even more sophisticated than we thought, and they want more things. So I think that it will have to be evolving. I think as far as the target persona being the founder, I think that will probably not change without some pretty major discussion, but I think it could change. If DAO learns certain things that I couldn't predict. And I'll maybe hand it over to you, DAO, if you want to speak to anything else beyond what I said there.
I mean, I think you covered most of it. Like Danielle mentioned, back in November, we actually got the whole team together in Denver for a week, and we did a lot of really useful kind of introspecting on what are we trying to do here, what are we trying to build, and how how much conviction do we have about this being the right direction. And we got some conviction around, okay, we want to build something for this founder who wants to be able to get insights into their, their data and their numbers from these different data sources easier, quicker in one centralized place. But of course, to confirm that kind of assumption that we have, because none of us besides Danielle had actually been founders ourselves before, so we were basically just kind of hoping that Danielle knew what she was doing. But then of course we started talking to these people. Like Danielle mentioned, we had about 250 people sign up over the course of 4 weeks, just through Google Ads, Facebook ads, and the like. And of course within our network, getting some people on board who were willing to talk to us. And they started telling us, like Danielle said, basically the same thing. So we think that in November, and that's what we've been working on for the last 4 or so months since then, we've really been getting closer and closer and closer to that point at which users will be wanting to come back, which is that retention rate, which so far we haven't seen increase yet. But it's easy to say, like, oh, I know it's just around the corner, but every call we have now is already different than the ones we had 2 months ago. And every call we have now basically gets a couple steps further into the process than those of a few months ago did, which means that they're getting closer to that value. And we are already reaching out to some existing users who we talked to a couple months ago, telling them what we've done in the meantime, and they start asking us better, more interesting questions that also give us more information about where to go from here. Like Danielle said, there's still a roadmap of at least a few more months of work, just in terms of addressing what we have already found out so far. But of course, as we're doing this, we are continuously in contact with these users and hearing if what we're doing actually addresses their needs or not. And I think, especially with me by myself on this project, it's going to be all the more important that I keep that channel with these users really close, and I keep in very close touch with them, because ultimately, I'm going to need people to throw ideas off of and to validate whatever ideas or assumptions I might have. And right now, it's been great to have, to some extent, the team be able to do that and keep each other on our toes when it comes to ideas that may or may not work in reality. But it's going to be great that we already have that list of about 250 people who have expressed interest and who we're going to keep talking to. And I'm like I've mentioned a couple of times, and that's also the reason why I decided to basically accept in a way this role on this project now by myself, which I maybe wouldn't have accepted if this had been on the table, a year ago when I was given the opportunity of joining a Meltano team, because my intention was not to join a product by myself and try to do it all myself. But I feel enough conviction about what we've done here so far that I really want to see it through a while. And as I do that, nearing the end of the year, it might very well be that I learn new things, and then Sid and I, of course, will keep talking. And we might change parts of the strategy or the direction or the target audience, but so far we're gonna basically keep doing exactly the same thing we have been doing with 6 people, but with 1. And that sounds a little bit counterintuitive because you think everything's going to be slow and you're not going to get anything done, but there's also kind of clarity and focus that comes with just being a single person on this thing, and then as time goes by, being able to identify what are the extra things we can bring in, whether it's in people or in other things we can use our budget for, to really figure out what it is that will give us the best chance of success. And unfortunately, growing the team to 6 people over the last year or so has not turned out to directly translate into that success. Although, like I said, I feel like we've definitely been getting closer and closer and closer over the last few months. But of course, that point had to come at which, from a kind of a grander GitLab perspective, looking at this as a 2-year project rather than a 6-month project, as I'm kind of framing it, having started from September, I started in September, November, so kind of things turned around, I feel. From GitLab as a 2-year project, and it makes total sense that we need to kind of reevaluate how we're approaching this and how we want that to translate to actual outcomes. A very long answer. I hope I covered a couple of interesting things.
That's great. On the bright side, it sounds like code reviews for you are going to be much quicker, though.
Yeah, I mean, the scary thing is I know I'm pretty good at code review, but doing your own code review is a whole different thing. And other people who have reviewed my code also know that I'm definitely not immune to making stupid mistakes. So that's going to be, one of the scary things about doing something like this by myself, because you don't have those other people to kind of use to improve whatever you can come up with by yourself. But we'll figure it out. Fortunately, some of the current Meltano members are hopefully going to find a place to stay within GitLab, and everyone, of course, is going to, I hope, feel have a place in their heart for this Meltano project, and they'll support me in whatever way they can through discussions on issues, code review occasionally, that kind of stuff. And then also mentioned that she's probably going to be submitting documentation changes and fixes every day for the rest of her tenure at GitLab.
Elsha, do you have a question?
Hi. I did. I think Dawa answered most of it. So I did ask before you gave your lengthy answer there, Dawa, how many users did you have and how did you promote Meltano in the industry to get new users? So did people actually start using it in November? So up to then you were just building the product, is that right?
Actually, we had users before. The struggle before was that it was a self-hosted product. So that meant they needed to be comfortable with setting up their own server and then going through our installation process, which for a lot of our target users just turned out to be too technical for them. Or maybe they could do it, but it was just too time consuming with all the other things that they needed to do. So we've had users for about 1.5 years. And over the course of that whole time, we probably had thousands, maybe crossed the 10,000 mark of users. The struggle was just, it's like a one-time use because we couldn't retain them because they didn't get enough value from the product. And so that's the struggle. We couldn't just keep pouring more people into the top of the funnel because it was just a very leaky sieve. So that's what a lot of the work we're doing now is addressing.
Okay, all right. And so did you mention that you were offering a SaaS solution now then?
We are, yes. So that's nice because they don't have to go through a lot of that setup process.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and and Dawa already answered the question about how you promoted it. So thank you very much, Dawa.
Oh, you're welcome.
Do y'all think there'll be like key metrics or milestones that will re-trigger additional investment from GitLab? I'm just kind of curious, like what you're aiming for, Dawa, from a, I mean, maybe it's too soon to talk about all that, but just from a like, hey, if it gets to this point, like maybe we can, as a company reinvest again.
Yeah, so I mean, this week obviously we're mostly focusing on the transition, and my main top priority is just helping the rest of the team basically find other opportunities, either inside or out. But I'm gonna be having one-on-ones with Sid. I don't know if he's in the room today, but I'm sure he has some things in mind already. And absolutely, it's not like just me being on it by myself means that any kind of goals or numbers we need to hit are out of the window. Quite the opposite. Of course, the timeline will be a little bit more relaxed, I'm assuming. But absolutely, there will be points at which certain numbers need to be hit, and if we hit them, I assume we'll get some more budget to maybe bring more people on. If not, then that could also very well mean that perhaps by the end of the year, everything gets scrapped anyway, but I'm going to give it, you know, an honest shot. And I really think there's something here, and I'm going to see it through a while longer, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, and I'm in the room.
Hi, Sid.
Hi, and looking forward to working with you on this. And yeah, we're buying time, basically. We're buying time to experiment. If we would continue with the full team, we'd have weeks left. Now we have months left. So we buy ourselves more time to try different things.
I see a little bit of typing in the doc, so I just want to make sure. Thank you for the questions so far. We don't have any other questions, so there's nothing else. We'll wrap it up, and Dawa will be running this meeting next time. So thanks to everybody who comes to these. Obviously, we're a small project, and it's been really great. We get an uptick of usage every time that we have one of these, and we still would love for you to tell people about Meltano. So our target customer, just to remind you, is startup founders who are really busy and want to build dashboards, especially to visualize their customer adoption, their sales and marketing funnel. So if you want to help us spread the word, we still are around. It's a smaller team, but we're going to keep going. And I know Dawa would love to have more people to ask questions about the product. So please let your friends know. And anything else you want to say, Dawa, or should we wrap it up?
No, I mean, thank you, Danielle, to you and the rest of the team for all the amazing work you've done here for the last 2 years. And I feel a lot of responsibility to, you know, see that through and have it not go to waste. I know that it's a sad day, sad week in Meltano just coming to an end, but fortunately it's not a final stop to this story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. And thank you for everyone who's contributed so far.
Awesome.
Good luck, Dawa.
Thank you, Elsje.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers, all. Bye.